Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664. I'm Les Winston, and I'm your national spokesperson for socialsecharity.org. That's a project of the Endow American Network Foundation. Very important work that we're doing. We're trying to build the endowment in America to offset the need for government. We don't have to pay taxes for the government to be able to provide community services when we can do that directly using our own charitable giving. And charitable giving involves being generous, and it involves being kind to others. And we have a very special guest with us this morning.
Not yet.
Not yet. We don't have a special guest
But
with
you
us
got
this morning.
me.
Hi, Wanda. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. So
We're waiting for Drew, also known as Andrew.
Okay.
Formsma. I'm saying that correctly. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, well, we'll see when he comes on. And hopefully Generation Z.
I think he's still cusping on teenage years, so, he'll be here.
Okay, got it.
When he gets here.
So rather than have dead air, let's talk about things that have been going on. Don't forget to tune into our radio station, Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. And you can hear some fantastic musical choices from the archives of the brain of our famous producer, Wanda. And we've got, of course, on the top of the hour, you'll hear the interviews that we've been doing for quite a while now here on Route 664. Interviews with people who are professional philanthropic planners, folks who are philanthropists,
Yay.
People who believe in human kindness.
People who do philanthropic things.
And help the community. And they do that sometimes by volunteering their time, also by creating the charitable devices that we talk about using Social Secharity as a tool. Social Secharity is a way for you to increase your income, a reliable source of income, while also getting some favorable tax deductions and ultimately doing something really good for the community, and where you can redirect your social capital as opposed to just yielding to the government and giving them all the tax money. You can do some planning.
Why not do that?
Exactly.
Plan ahead for your ultimate demise,
we want you to be informed taxpayers.
Yeah.
An informed taxpayer is one who understands what can be done, what's available. And so we talk about it here on Route 664. There are ways for you to make contributions into trust that you can control and eventually leave to charity. But while you're controlling them, you can get the income for your lifetime. And you can also give income to your spouse for the spouse's lifetime. And there are devices where you can leave to your children as well, where you can provide them with an opportunity to be good to the community by giving the money that you've put aside in this form of legacy. I like to say that my great-great-great-grandchildren will know my name because I've established something that they can use going forward, and I'm trying to instill in them the idea of being kind to others. And being kind to others is a way for you to help the community, do things that are benefiting mankind.
Another way is through everyday generosity.
Yes.
Everyday generosity. And that brings us to our first guest, who is the author of Everyday Generosity. He has joined us.
Good.
Drew, also known as Andrew Formsma. How are you this morning, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Doing good. You're in Colorado?
I'm in Colorado. It's
right.
wonderful out here.
Is that school or golfing? I know you're a golfer. We'll hear about that.
Yes, I go to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now, but for the summer, my mom and I took a little trip. Something that I always tell parents is invite your kids in to whatever you're doing. And, even if
not everything.
but into some stuff so that they feel included. I think in this generation, nobody feels included and they feel disconnected to the next generation. So my mom and I are doing a little trip together in Colorado. So I
like that. That's great. The kind of sharing that we were discussing with a couple of the professional philanthropic advisors that we have interviewed in the past. They talk about passing family values and having the discussion with children about values and inviting the children in to discuss that with the parents. I see you've gone pretty far with this. You and your dad have written a book.
Yep.
And the book's title is Everyday Generosity. And you talk about it in terms of it's the alternative to the selfie world. Why do you say that?
When you give, something changes in your DNA and who you are. I believe that we were all created to live generously in some aspect. And my dad and I, for years, our organization is called I Like Giving. And what we do is we teach people 7 ways of living generously. And those 7 ways are generous with our thoughts, words, time, influence, attention, money, and belongings. And those 7 ways are kind of a catalyst to how you can give in a crazy world like we are today. No matter what age you are, no matter who you are, and no matter where you're going, you can be generous today. And that was the idea. When I said I was coming up with that subtitle and, we're working with the publishers, I was like, in this world where it's all about us, all about me, it's all about the likes, how many people are following me, I started to think, what if we switched and shifted the spotlight off of us and onto the people around us and started to look for everyday opportunities? And when I started to look into the research, when we give 3 or more times a week, we live longer, we take half the medicine, and we're overall more happy. And we're actually doing stuff in schools right now across this country. We have thousands of students going through curriculum on our it's called the Generosity Roadmap, and we have seen crazy results. Less depression, less suicide, culture in the classroom's changing. It is unbelievable what happens when generosity comes into someone's life and it takes control.
Okay, I would like to bottle what you just said.
Good luck with that.
That's just the ideal thought. And it's what we really do need today. One of the things that we've been talking about, I'd just like to have the discussion with you, what you think about it.
Yeah.
There's this idea of providing service. I understand that it's when you're doing it voluntarily as you are, where you are trying to get the younger generation to be generous and to give, it's going to take a while for that to sink in all the way. And I think that some things may be helped if they were made into some sort of mandatory arrangement. I know that mandatory generosity sounds kind of funny, but what we're really asking the powers that be to consider is a way for each individual who reaches age 18 to provide service to the country in one way or another for a 2-year period. And as a result of that 2-year period, they would have 2 years of college credit if they were in that direction, or they would have 2 years of an apprenticeship or 2 years of working in other areas. But the idea is that they're doing something for others. They're actually, whether it's building the infrastructure or caring for others or whatever. What do you think of that idea?
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, you can see it in the church, and they've gone back and people are upset that, man, every time I go to church, they're just beating me for money, and it's a obligation and a duty. And what I've seen is in times of my life when someone said I've had to give, I have not responded in a way that's joyful. It's more like, man, I have to do this. I don't get to do this. Mm-hmm. And so what I try to say is when we bring this into our lifestyle and we look every day at how we can give, it becomes part of who we are. And so I would say with that question, I think it really prompts me to go, how can we get more people in this country to look past the tax deduction, which is a wonderful asset that we have today, past what reward we may get, and go, I see this with wealthy people all the time, if they started to give at a young age and made it part of who they are, it would be significantly easier and they'd be giving millions more away. Most of these givers today, in my opinion, there's a lot of people who are sophisticated in their giving, but there's a lot of people who have no idea what to do with their giving. And the problem is they've never gave in their whole life. They've never even gave the homeless guy on the corner. They've never given the mailman a fresh Coke. They've never experienced the joy in giving. So it's an obligation in their head. And I think a lot of people in this country think giving is something they have to do. It's just Giving Tuesday or it's something. But when you get out of that mindset, something incredible can happen. But I agree. I think you could set up something to where you can engage the next generation physically around the generous life and around serving and helping other people.
So it's not just giving money. That's the big part of your theme.
Crucial.
is money is not the only thing that you can give. You can give in a lot of other ways, and generosity can even be just a smile to another person. That's probably the easiest thing.
You're never
for people
fully
to do.
dressed without a smile.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the post office line a few days ago, and everybody knows that. I mean, you head into the post office, and it's like you got to line up the door. People are just, I mean, even after this COVID, they're just furious. And we live in California, and I feel like half the people are changing their addresses, but that's beyond that. We're in there, and you know, I just noticed this one lady, and she's doing such a good job, and we ship a lot of things, and I was just sending a few things out for my dad, and I'm in line, and I complimented her on her smile, and I just said, "I love your smile. I hope you have a wonderful day. I really appreciate your hard work and showing up for me, and that I'm able to share these packages." And what that did is that changed the mindset from grumpy, bummed out that I have to be in a grungy post office to, wow, look at the opportunity I get to compliment somebody and she responded by saying, "No one's ever complimented me." And that's one of those situations that it just goes, you can change someone's life through giving. You can change someone's life when you look for these everyday opportunities, but it starts with awareness.
So you wrote this book with your dad. How did that come about?
Well, I'm 19 years old, and throughout high school, I've spoken at about, probably 100 events, and, hundreds of thousands of people. And, I get people you get people super excited about giving, and it fades a little bit. And I felt like that deep down, I was like, what if I could show people kind of something that they could become part of their habit and nature, and show a deeper element into just a 30-minute inspirational talk. And so I wrote this book, Everyday Generosity, as a catalyst to helping my generation and families across this country see what happens when you're kind to your siblings. What happens when you respect your parents? What happens when there's a culture of giving in your family? In our family, it started when I was very little, and my dad got the newspaper when that was around, and we got the newspaper, and that
was around.
I know that's how you know it's far back. So he reads this
Wow.
story about this. He reads this story about this Sudanese father and son who had their bikes stolen, and they just came from another country, and they were immigrants, and they were in Michigan, and they got their bikes stolen. And my dad goes, "What should we do, kids?" And we're like, "Let's go get them bikes." So we jump in the car, we head to the bike store, we put the bikes in the back, we're driving down the road. My mom's in the passenger seat. She looks over at my dad. She's like, "Do you know where they live?" He's like, "Oh no, I don't." And he's like, "Of course they don't put that in the newspaper." So 4 hours of driving all over our city. All we had is the little picture of the house. After 4 hours, we finally find them.
Wow.
And all the dad and son could say when we give them these bikes is, "I like bike, I like bike, I like bike." And they're driving these bikes down the sidewalk. And that day, my mom got in the car and she said, "I thought there would be thousands of bikes in that front yard, yet there wasn't any." It's almost like we had an assignment that day. It's almost like there was a reason for us to see that. And I think so many times it's important for us as humans to follow that nudge, even though it may be messy, uncomfortable, or get you out of your zone. I would challenge you to go for it. We live such a short life. Live a life that is of significance and of purpose and of others focused. I mean, money's money, and it's that, but you have 6 other ways to give: your time, your influence, whoever you are, the CEO, or if you're bagging groceries, we all have opportunities to give. That day, that thing set me apart, because I remember that was the day it finally clicked for me. I saw my parents model generosity, and I started to go, man, I want this for myself. And that's the reason I wrote the book, because I wanted to model generosity to families and to people across this nation. And it has done incredible. Thousands of copies sold, and I've done a couple TED Talks. It's been an incredible experience.
Drew, it's a pleasure meeting you. I just have one more question.
Yeah.
When you have children, how do you start that conversation with your children? What do you do to start them on that road?
3 things that I came up with. After speaking, I would have grandparents and parents come up to me all the time and they would say, Drew, how do I get my kids to give? So I came up with an acronym. It's called MEE, M-E-E, which is ironic because it's not about me. Model,
Okay.
encourage, engage. Let's take it back. When you model generosity, like I just showed with the I Like Bike story, my parents, they didn't talk about generosity. They went and did it. And I got to see it for myself. And I got to be a part of it. And something happened when I saw that experience. The next is encourage. Encourage your kids to give. There are opportunities all around us all the time. If it's serving in a food bank, or if it's making bags for the homeless people, or if it's looking to the people in our lives who are picking up trash, or at the dry cleaners, or whoever, look for them. Give a smile. Encourage your kids to step out there. That's a huge part. And maybe start yourself, and then they'll follow. The last is engage. Engage in the conversation of generosity. I was in high school and I would have kids come up to me and they're like, you're talking about generosity? I don't even know what that means. And it's unbelievable how many people in my age and in generations, even in generations like my parents and my grandparents, have no idea. They think it's just money, or they think it's only for the people who are wealthy. And I would really challenge your listeners, engage in this conversation around the dinner table, share stories of generosity, and talk about it. This is an unbelievable lifestyle. My family's caught on. Thousands of people across this country are. And you can tell the people who are in this world who are generous because they're happier and they're joyful people.
Drew, thank you very much. You're like the champion of the generosity generation. Maybe we have a new term for it. But thank you very much for joining us this morning on Route 664. It's very, very inspirational. Appreciate what you're doing out there. It's really good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And part of what we talk about when we do planning for charitable giving and the whole concept of going forward in financial planning is we've used the example of a pyramid which has 5 levels, and they're confidence levels. The basic confidence level that you need to achieve first in order to get above the bottom is confidence over money. And that means that you have what you need, and you'll have what you need in the future, and you don't worry about money. And the second thing is having confidence over your time, then relationships, then spirituality. And at the top is working at your genius, having confidence enough to get to your genius. And that's been called other things by other people. And we have with us, our next guest is Claudia Beeny. And Claudia is all about shine, which is kind of similar to genius.
Yep.
Good morning. How are you, Claudia?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me to be here today.
Yeah. What inspired you to write the book that you wrote regarding this topic? Because shine, people don't really equate that to, to their personal characteristic.
Yeah, so I will say that shine, first of all, Drew was just a great guest, and in many cases exemplifies so much of what it is that we aspire and achieve to do at the House of Shine. So I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization called the House of Shine. And really what we believe is that inside every person is a contribution that's just waiting to be made. And our ability to give and to make that contribution, and by the way, we have many contributions over our lifetime. It's not like a single thing that we do, or even just, again, some people like to use the word purpose. I think the word purpose can feel very, very large. And so in some cases, I'm just saying we're all designed to make a contribution, but our ability to make that contribution is connected to how much we know about ourselves, because we give, as Drew said, in many cases, we will give the best of who we are when we know who we are and when we're giving from what I call that sweet spot. So this book that I've written is actually designed to help people discover who they are and why who they are matters.
To focus them on their, when we talk about genius, we explain genius by saying it's something you can do 24 hours a day and never get tired of it. If you do something for 3 hours and fall asleep, that's not your genius. But it sounds like shine and genius are kind of alike. How do they equate to each other? I mean, would you say that if you find your shine, are you finding your genius?
So I believe there is a point of connection there. I think that when you find your shine, which is again, your shine is comprised of what are your strengths? So are you innately good at? Hobbies, interests, and irritants. What do you need in life in order to feel happy and fulfilled? And then what are the experiences that you've had in life that have helped shape who you are and your lens, your framework, if you will, the way you see and walk through life. And once we understand that about a person and we help them discover again who they are at their core, their essential self, then we can get busy with them trying to apply that information to what we would refer to as the point of intersection, the place where your talents, whether that be financial resource that you have, physical talents that you have, connect with interests that you have in life, and then ultimately with a need that you see in the world around you. So when you bring together talent plus interest plus need, what you get at the very center is what I say is your point of intersection. You would probably call that your genius.
Sounds similar.
The place where you are bringing all three of those things together in a way that works for you and makes you feel plentiful, that you're a wellspring of energy and resource that you want to share with other people.
Now, how easy is that to really achieve with somebody? I understand it sounds like you have a method of going about finding that. So is it easy to find?
So, sure. I mean, I like to say, no one knows you better than you, but really in many cases.
Do people open up that way? Do you find people willing to really break down any barriers they have about discussing who they really are other than taking selfies?
I feel like actually in the world that we're living in right now with selfies, social media, so much noise, as I like to say, there's just a lot of noise in the world. I actually think that when people are invited into a space to quiet down, to be really quiet and reflective and asked to share a piece of their story, I actually think people are very motivated to do that because I think it's more and more unusual.
How do you mechanically do that? Is there a space that you're talking about?
So we opened a physical space just in September of this past year called the House of Shine. It's located in Grapevine, Texas. And this is a place where we do everything that I'm talking about, where we teach workshops. We have curriculum that we also provide in schools around the country. But we are creating physical space where people can come, be in community with one another, discovering more about who they are, again, in community where we're identifying local needs, and then people are using those talents and gifts to actually fill local needs in the community. So this is a very interesting model that we really hope to open up various locations around the country.
So how do you attract the people to that session? What is it? Who are the people that you want to attract or the most likely to attend?
So I always say that we are for people between the ages of 5 to 95. And actually what I really mean is
Not too many people.
Yeah. Well, what I really mean is if you are living and breathing, there is room for you at the House of Shine. And the reason is because, again, inside each of us are many contributions that are meant to be made over our lifetime. And so the real issue is, how do we stay reflective enough and connected enough to who we are as human beings that we are transitioning? But as we move through transitions, we are continuing to make these contributions. Mm-hmm. And so really, at the end of the day, if you, again, are living and breathing, then there's room for you at the House of Shine because we're helping you identify.
How early in life is it best to find your shine? Yeah.
So it's all about us creating culture, right? So as Drew was saying earlier, you have to start young. So really, we like to say, I mean, before 5 is a little tough because you have to be able to, string together full sentences and have any semblance of reflective thought. So we start as young as 5, and there is no endpoint. Some of our favorite people who drop in and visit us and come to our workshops and programs and initiatives that we have going on are in their late 80s. So
okay, in these settings, is it the parents and the children working together at the same time, or the parents drop off the kids and the kids come back to them as better human beings?
So we do a variety. We do things that are just for kids because kids will actually self-express in different ways than their parents aren't around. And then we do things just for parents because parents also are actually in many cases the younger you are, the easier time you have living your essential self. You know who you are, you know what you like, you know what you enjoy doing. This becomes harder as we get older because there are all kinds of messages and norms that we're trying to fit in order to be successful. So we do things with just youth, we do things with just adults, and then we do things also as families where you can come in and actually work on projects together that are giving-based projects.
So those are like retreats. Family retreats?
Sure. Retreats, sometimes it's as small as a 1-hour workshop or as long as a half-day retreat experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Summer camp experiences.
So what is your background that got you into this in the first place?
I love that you're asking that because my background is in higher education. I spent 25 years working on college campuses around the country. And one of the things that I realized is that so many students were getting to college not really knowing why they were there. And I believed that, you know, when you get to college and you don't know why you're there, oftentimes you won't leverage that or make the most of that experience. You'll stop out or drop out or, you know, whatever the situation might be. Change majors multiple times, any number of things. So my goal was really to say we can start this conversation early, that we can create a culture whereby people believe and know that they are born to make a contribution, and that they're beginning from the youngest of ages. Their job is to be on the lookout for what that contribution is. And it comes in the form of clues, right? When does time fly for you? What is it that you receive compliments about? And these are all the little clues along the way that help us determine what we're best suited to do. What is the contribution we are most likely to make that will fill us up and at the same time fill a need?
It's not as far as your purpose on the planet, I guess, but it is kind of similar to that.
I think that purpose can feel like a very heavy word, and purpose actually can paralyze people. Purpose can make people stall and wait, thinking this isn't good enough or big enough. And so what I say is get busy doing something that you're enjoying and that you really like. And the more you do that, the better you will get. And the better you get, the more passionate you might actually feel about it. And
just think about how you'll feel.
Right.
Doing something you like every day. Get up in the morning.
Is purpose too much pressure is what you're saying?
I think purpose gives people an out. Purpose can actually help get people thinking like, this isn't big enough. This doesn't feel important enough to be purpose. And the truth of the matter is that the contributions that we make, the most significant contributions that we make, don't have to be these massive, big, emotionally laden things. They can be smaller gestures. So let's just start by making a difference in our small corner of the world and see what that ignites in us. And if that ignites a deeper level of commitment and passion, if you will, then eventually you might feel like you are living your purpose. I think I'm a good example of that. I spent so many years working in education, loving every minute of it. But I actually do feel like I'm living my purpose right now.
So you love what you're doing.
I love what I'm doing.
Well, there's nothing better than that.
The
I love what
ultimate
I'm
privilege.
doing too.
Yeah.
I could do this 24 hours a day because I'm such a ham.
In fact, he kind of does on the radio.
Yeah, you can hear about it on Route 664. This will replay, by the way, on Route 664 as well. And
5 o'clock.
this is all about how to make the world a better place, and get to human kindness, and being kind to yourself is the first step in a lot of ways. And I think finding your shine is really being kind to yourself, and sense that you're happier with what you're doing because you like what you're doing, and you actually found something that thrills you when you get up in the morning and not, it's a drag. So
Exactly.
I want to thank you very much for bringing to light this concept of shine,
Absolutely.
shining light.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it very much, Claudia. And buy the book. And how can they get the book, Claudia?
You can order the book by going to houseofshine.com and get it online. You can go to Amazon and order it straight off of Amazon. Or if you live in the area, you can certainly stop by our space in Grapevine, Texas.
How long is it going to take you to work yourself out of a job?
Oh, you know what? I'll be doing some form of this until I am no longer, but I will certainly ratchet it down and turn it over to another generation at some point. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, Claudia.
All right.
Thank you for being with us on Route 664. And, join us on Facebook. Listen to us on Route 664 Radio. You can also find us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
Yay.
And this is all about social charity. It's about Route 664. It's about human kindness and people who think about making other people's lives better by helping them find that human kindness element to themselves as well as to others. So thanks for joining us this morning. And again, thank you to both of our guests, Drew and to Claudia. And Tommy, thank you for working the board. Wanda, thanks for producing. Do a great job. And we're done for today. We'll see you next week.